Today I'm looking at a Ford Mondeo. It won't do the regeneration. The fault code was P246B, and that was the conditions not met. The other fault code was P2263, and that was the turbo boost system performance. So now I'm just checking a few things out on this to see why it doesn't like it. When I looked at it on the scan tool, it was stuck at 1.7 volts. It didn't move at all. So I'm going to have another look under the car, see if I can get something to free off. Now we're under the car. Here's the turbo actuator. I've got a vacuum pipe onto here. Next to it where the wires are, we've got a position sensor right here. So I'm looking at the voltage with the ignition on. I do have a good 5-volt supply, and a ground is good. So I'm looking at the signal. I've already got it to move a bit. When I use a vacuum pump and give it some vacuum, I can see this move. So it looks like this is capable of working. I may have either freed it off, or that's as high as it'll go. 3.18 I mean, and I release the pressure, drops back down. So it is working. I'll spray it up and work it a few times, but then I think I need to start looking at something else causing this. I can actually put the vacuum hose back on and see what's happening when I start the car. You can see my vice grips that I've attached to it. You might see them up there. When I release the pressure, they move. Everything seems okay here. So it could just be the vacuum solenoid that's providing this, but everything's free to move up there. So we've got another direction now, checking the vacuum to this. So that's my next check. Okay. So the 1.7 was what it's running at with the engine on. Usually when you start it, it moves it all the way one way, and that changes when you rev it up. That's not moving as much as we can do it with a vacuum pump. Because we've got more vacuum than the car, I started looking around trying to find a vacuum solenoid. There's one. Don't know if it's the right one, but the point is this is broke right there. Snapped off in there. So it's not going to generate a vacuum in the system. It could be losing it, even if that's not the solenoid for that. But what I'll do is apply vacuum to here on this one, then I'll know if that moves, if the actuator moves at the bottom of the car, then this is the right solenoid. And that's all the problem is. That was just sitting like that, right next to it, but not actually on it. Yeah, it is. If I put a vacuum, this pipe goes right down to the solenoid. That's the voltage at the back of the solenoid, 1.26. If I give this vacuum, this is going down to the solenoid, and that's changing the voltage down here. So there's the problem. Just need a solenoid valve. I could check that there is actually vacuum on this side whilst I'm here, just to be thorough. Then I'm totally finished. So what I'll do, so I don't forget which one's which, I'll put this back on where it should be. It's not the one with the broken bit, it's that one. I'm going to try and get that bit out of there and apply vacuum. Not apply vacuum, fit the vacuum gauge and start the car, see if I have vacuum. So after starting the engine, this goes up to well off the gauge, and it holds it when I switch it off. So we know the pipe does have vacuum, and we know if we put vacuum on there, it moves at the turbo end. We know the position sensor on the turbo actuator is working, it's all because of that brake there. So if I change that, it'll work. Then it should allow me to do a regeneration. It was aborting the regeneration for the DPF because it didn't like something that it was seeing, and it'll be the turbo position. So now that we'll get that fixed, I can do a regen, and this one should be finished. So that, yeah, the fault was at the top of the car, but I started at the actual actuator first. Tested it there for somewhere to get the voltage, the actual voltage on the position sensor. And then I could check for the vacuums and followed it back. I could have gone to the solenoid, but I had to start somewhere. Okay, I'll just change that out and do a regen. Okay, got a new one, or a second-hand one that I can try. Let's see if this works now. Luckily I had a new part. Well, it wasn't new. Luckily there was a car over there that they also own that they don't use. They're going to get rid of it. Had exactly the same engine, so I just swapped it over. Now all I've got to do is clear the fault code. I can see on the live data that it's going to work. I'll be able to see it. I'll show you that on the live data. Let me just get this set up and I'll show you. There's the voltage of it now. I'll just start the car. You see 1.24. Now it's moving right up. It's got full control of it. So we know it's working already. When I rev it, it should go low down to where it started off. I'm going to come out of this and go back, clear the fault codes. So just the ignition on. That's it. Let's just read it again though, just so we can see that it's gone. Ignition's on. It's taking its time. And the only thing I've got to do to this is a regen. No fault codes. We know it's working, we know what the fault was, so I'm happy that the repair's good. Now I can go into hot functions, whatever that is. Oh, it's not on this screen. I have to go back a bit more. Back, hot functions. Now I can do a DPF. Diesel particulate filter, static regen. On. Reading fault codes. Position off. Okay, that. Okay, we've got all this that I've read before last time I tried this. Put the ignition on. Start the engine. Right, it's got to warm up a bit. It's at 48, it needs to be at 65, so once it gets to there it'll automatically do this regen, and then we know it's capable of doing a regen. That's it, doing a regeneration now, and it's picked the speed up to like just over 2,500, near 3,000 RPM. Gotta wait whatever 2,300 seconds is, and then when it's done that it will do the cool down. Just gotta wait the whole time. That's how long it's gonna take to do this. So I'll just go and sit in the van and order some parts that I need to order for the next customers. So this one took a little bit longer than expected because I thought it was just a regen that I was coming out to do. But that's okay. It's done. Will be done soon anyway. Hopefully this is helpful to somebody. If you've got any faults on the engine, certainly you need to clear them before it's going to be able to do a regen. Thanks for watching.